Hey guys, it's Doodly Squatch. Got a fun doodle and just some stories. So here we go. Today's doodle is a fairly straightforward one. I was just making shapes and it eventually turned into a buff crow. So not much more to it than that. Just a fun shape drawing, trying to work with muscles and make it into something fun. But today I've been thinking a lot about my early childhood. So early 1990s, before the internet, back when it was black and white. Not that bad, but back to 91, 92. I was living in a place called Lake Los Angeles. It's an unincorporated area. It's in the Antelope Valley, but it's kind of out in the sticks. But it's where I lived from age 3 to about 9. And it's where a lot of my childhood memories are, at least early childhood, that sort of thing. Let's see, what is there to say about Lake LA? There's a lot of Joshua trees, and a lot of car commercials get filmed out there. Any car commercial you see with Joshua trees is usually done on this same stretch of road out there. To this day, I still see commercials I recognize areas in, and stock footage for Bonanza was filmed out there. Out by Vasquez Rocks, they filmed parts of Tremors, at least the first two, those movies. There was a abandoned looking like gas station, but that was in fact a movie set. It was called Club Ed, and it's like a 2-story looking kind of beat up gas station. It's like a gas station with a house attached to it. And I used to wander out there. It was not too far from my home. And what's really interesting about that one was that particular movie set came back into my memory when I saw The Devil's Rejects. It's the set they used for the hotel that the traveling family band is staying in, where the rejects come upon them and start their new killing spree. So it's kind of funny that I spent part of my childhood playing in a pretend murder place. Let's see what else. But when I was just a lad of 6 or 7, I remember we had there was a bike path that ran along the road behind my house. It was a wide avenue, and people were going like highway speeds on it, so it was like a highway. And it was forbidden to cross that. Don't ride your bike on that. Don't cross that. I remember getting in real big trouble with my dad because he saw me. He was driving home from work, and he sees his boy out on this busy road, and oh my, I got a chewing. And but this particular memory, I remember I was there with my brother, who's just below me, so he would have been about 5 or 6, and I was about 7 or 8. We were out with our friend Andrew, and we were riding our bikes. And one thing the desert has a lot of, and no shortage of, is dirt clods. I remember having dirt clod fights with other kids, throwing them like snowballs. I'm not sure if that's a normal thing or if that was just a desert rat thing, but but it's what we did. And we got it into our heads, we're gonna throw dirt clods across the big road. We're trying to get them across them. And so we're just hucking dirt clods across this road, not really thinking much and not paying a whole lot of attention. But we were throwing these dirt clods, and suddenly we hear screeching tires. We hear a car stopping rapidly. And being kids, what do you do when you're in trouble? You run. So we boogied out into the desert, just beyond where we were throwing the dirt clods, into some tumbleweeds. And the problem being our bikes were still there, just on their stands, right there on the path. And so of course we run away, but then we're like, our bikes, oh no. So me and Andrew go back, and we see our bikes, and standing next to our bikes is a fella in sunglasses with a mullet standing by his car that he had parked next to our bikes. And oh man, he was mad. And my brother, being a very fast little boy, was just gone, 4 sheets to the wind, just poof. And we're having to call him back to us because the guy's gonna take our bikes. And we're like, come back, he's gonna take our bikes. And he comes back, and this guy, he's like, what are you boys doing? And we're like, we're just throwing dirt clods across the road, and we're not throwing them at your car. We're sorry. And and the guy, is driving, and he just sees what looks like rocks being thrown, over his car. And so he slammed on his brakes, and he's mad. I'm thinking we probably gave him a really good scare, and when you're scared, you're mad. And so we're in trouble. And it was the first time I'd ever had an adult whom I didn't know swear at me. Like it was a new and novel experience. He's like, how old are you boys? We're like, tell him, yeah, we're this old. And he's like, well, I have a baby at home, and that's who I'm thinking of. And I don't want to wreck my car out here because you boys are throwing stuff across the road, and you don't want that to happen to someone and be responsible for that. And like, you're right. Yes, sir. Yeah. And he's like, starting to calm down, telling us, he's like, yeah, this is serious. You guys need to not be doing this. And it's just funny to think, the way I picture him, it's so 90s, because the dude had these, just big, like, aviator sunglasses on, and he's wearing like white jeans, or like off-white jeans, and like a tucked in polo, and he had like a mullet, and he just looks like he fell out of a music video. And no, he was mad, and he was driving this little rinky-dink cute car, and he's like, I ought to take your names down and call, get your numbers and call your folks. And we're like, no, please don't do that. He's like, yeah, you'd get your ass whooped, wouldn't you? And I'm like, yeah. And so it was an experience for sure. That was really, really something. But it just got me thinking, like, when my kids were like 6 and 7, I can't imagine just turning them loose on the wilderness. Just like, out you go, off you go into the desert on your bikes, zipping around. It was a different time. It really was. And it's so wild to think, it's like, because to me, when I think of like 6-year-old kids, 6 and 7-year-old kids, I'm like, they're not that, I wouldn't say bright, but they're not that experienced or something like that. But then I remember, it's like, man, I was getting into some stuff when I was a kid. It's amazing to think about the amount of times that we dodged those particular bullets. I'm very glad that the guy wanted to teach us a lesson and expound some wisdom upon us, rather than just kidnap us and murder us or something. Like that. That didn't even cross our mind at the time. But it was a good lesson. It's good to receive discipline from someone other than your parents, in a good way. The guy wasn't nuts. He was, scared, angry, explained the situation, used some colorful language, but regardless, he was able to impress upon us how serious it was. And I'll be darned if I never threw a dirt clod again. That was, I was good. I didn't need to know any more about that. But it was a good experience, and it's a good memory to reflect on. Interesting to think about, where we landed now. Our friend Andrew, we moved away, but we were, the joys of social media is you can find people, and Andrew later joined the military and was out in Afghanistan, and had his foot blown off by a mine. He was driving a Humvee, and he lost a foot, and that's just crazy to think about. Whom I knew as a little kid. Now he's an adult veteran with a prosthetic foot and family of his own, all that, and it's just crazy. I don't know. Time's nuts. That's why I'm glad I'm doing this, so I can get memories down. I'm terrible at journaling. Probably going to start doing more stories with things I'd like to remember, things I myself remember or want people to hear about. It's kind of fun story, little anecdote. And Buff Crow, there he is, looking good. He looks like he's in my head. It kind of reminds me of the old Blink-182, like dancing bunnies. He's got his arms up like he's skanking or something like that. Yeah, thanks for joining in. Appreciate you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and have a good day.